What's up, guys? Today I wanted to revisit the Galaxy S9 Plus. These are two phones that I really like. So this is really before Samsung started taking features out. So we looked at the Note 9 and that still had the headphone jack. This still has the headphone jack, the iris scanner, and even the heart rate sensor on here, which I thought was pretty cool. So that's one of the first things I went to like sort of check out in the Samsung Health application. You can actually just use the heart rate sensor in here. If you want to, and it'll go ahead and measure your heart rate and stuff like that. You can see all you have to do is just rest your hand right there. It'll go ahead and do it for you right there. And also the Samsung Health application is very cool. It's very useful, really easy to use. So yeah, definitely check that out as well, guys, too. But yeah, that was pretty cool. The heart rate sensor, Samsung, they never brought it back. Maybe it was expensive to put in their phone, or maybe just nobody used it. I'm not sure. But I want to talk about the design of this phone. This phone has some pretty awesome colors. So this is the purple color, and I just really love the way that it looks, especially when it hits the light. But the S9 series and Note 9 series, I think, has some pretty nice colors, and it feels pretty good in the hand. It's kind of sharp a little bit on the edges, but it still has that. It sort of smooths itself out right here. So in the palm, it doesn't feel as it doesn't feel as sharp. So it still feels pretty comfortable. Kind of reminds me of the LG G7 a little bit here. But absolutely love the colors that Samsung was putting out that year. Fingerprint scanner, physical fingerprint scanner on the back works really well. And overall, I just really like the design on here. I think it still looks pretty nice still. Should you get the S9 Plus in 2023? No, there are better options. You could spend, $200, get an S10 series phone, S20, and if you pay just a little bit more, you can even get an S21 for very cheap these days. So I just like this as a collector's edition, especially since you have these cool features that Samsung doesn't put in anymore, like the heart rate and the iris scanner, stuff like that. So I really do just like to go back and just check this phone out. Alright, so the display on here is pretty nice. So Samsung, at the time where everybody was doing sort of like these notches and things like that, Samsung did not do that. So as we can see, there's no notch or anything. They waited until they got the punch hole, and this is still a beautiful display. Actually, it's a Super AMOLED display. It's at 6.2 inches, so it's pretty easy to hold, and it's still a 1440p display, and it is a 529 for the PPI. So it's a very nice display. Even in 2023, it will beat, as far as resolution wise, a Galaxy A53. It just looks better and sharper, in my opinion. Again, the only thing this phone is lacking is probably like a 90 hertz, right? Or any type of high refresh rate. And also, the bezels are a little bit chunkier on this phone as well, as you guys can see. A little bit chunkier bezels, but man, this is still such a really nice screen on here. And it does have a slight curve to it as well, too, if you guys can't tell. It does have a slight curve. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I really like the display on here. It's a very nice looking screen. Now, surprisingly, the Snapdragon 845 still does a pretty good job when it comes to performance, and overall general performance is still really good. Now, of course, you're not going to get the greatest gaming settings on here. There's no HDR Extreme for PUBG, but I think the casual gamer can game on here pretty easily. It works very smoothly for me. We are rocking the Snapdragon 845 chip on here. You also do have micro SD card support, 64 gigs of internal storage, and 4 gigs of RAM. So like I said, performance wise, it still actually runs very well in terms of just bouncing in and out of applications, web browsing, launching YouTube. It's not like it's lagging and stuff. So I thought was pretty impressive. And then when it comes to gaming, I think casually gaming on here is still pretty good. And then you have still a lot of the Samsung features on here that still work really well. Samsung desktop support, secure folders, and stuff like that. So it's a really nice experience still. This phone got its last major OS update. I believe the last one was Android 10, and then it's been getting security patches, and it just recently stopped getting security patches. I think it was either last year or the year before. But yeah, so as far as the software experience goes, I've seen even people boot a custom ROM if you want to go that route and just boot a ROM on here if you really like this phone. But yeah, so I think performance is still pretty good on the S9 Plus, even for a phone of this age. Now, surprisingly, the cameras on the S9 Plus are still, pretty decent. If you guys check out my camera comparison I did with the S22 Ultra versus the S9 Plus. Now, of course, the S22 Ultra pretty much blew it away in terms of image quality. Basically, this phone suffers from what, a lot of older flagships suffer from, is if you take it out of good lighting, you sort of get a soft photo. But, in good lighting, this can still pump out a pretty decent photo. For sure. If you're in like a sunny day, you actually be pretty surprised at how well the shots come out. But like I said, anything less than good lighting, it'll give you sort of a soft, kind of grainy photo a little bit. But definitely good lighting, very impressive shots with such, with such an older phone. And then you have a 12 megapixel standard and a 12 megapixel telephoto. It does 2x optical zoom and then 4K 60, 8 megapixel standard. And then you have that dedicated iris scanner on there, and it does 1440p video for the front as well. So I think the cameras, again, pretty good in good lighting. I also found the speakers to be still pretty good on here. I think they have pretty good bass quality, and the top speakers put it in a pretty good amount of work as well. Now, battery life on the S9 Plus is just okay, pretty much. These days, mine gets around 5 hours and 30 minutes, which is not bad. It is a used phone, so I'm pretty sure these phones new were getting around probably 6 hours of screen on time. But I think that's still pretty good for such a small battery on here. It has a 3,500 milliamp battery, and then you also have 15-watt charging and wireless charging as well. So basically, battery life is just kind of okay on this device. It's not anything that's going to blow you away. But definitely, guys, I think this is a pretty cool phone. Just a heart rate sensor, iris scanner, the headphone jack. Just kind of like you can go back into Samsung's history and see this is a very complete device before they start, sort of taking things away. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.